Good morning, Detective. You slept well?
I'm afraid I did not. I was hoping for at least a moment of pleasant slumber, but alas, it was not to be. Finding the Major's killer is the only thing that will put my mind at ease.
In that case, Detective, what can I do to help? In that snow? If someone was out there, we'd have another body on our hands.
I realize how strange it sounds. I would not believe it myself if I had not seen it with my own eyes.
Staff have reported seeing things in the dark before, but it always just turns out to be shadows. It was likely just your mind playing tricks. I'm afraid our Lizzie is not well. I think the events of yesterday were too much for her. We'll have to just make do without her this morning.
As Wordsworth once stated, rest and be thankful. Perhaps a chance of peace and relaxation will work wonders.
She is currently eating breakfast alone in the dining room. It's how she prefers it. But if you wish to speak with her now... I would, but I'm afraid I found this morning that the telephone lines aren't working. The snow continued through the night and must have damaged them. Even if we could use the telephone, I don't think anyone would be able to reach us.
In that case, it will be up to myself alone to solve the case.
I'll let you know if anything changes. But until some of the snow clears, enough for the carriages to arrive, we are snowed in. Taken care of. Master Demir and his brother, after sobering up, helped me move him into the cellar. Best place for the time being.
Très bien. I imagine there is no reason for anyone to go down there.
Besides me, no one. Once this snow clears, we will be able to move him from the house.
Your assistance has been most valuable as always.
Good morning, Detective. I hope you were comfortable last night.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. The room was more than pleasant, merci. I'm afraid my mind was not in a state to enjoy it to its full potential, though.
I can't imagine any of us slept soundly last night.
Hopefully, guilt will be weighing heavily on someone's shoulders this morning.
I'm sorry if I was not much help last night, Detective.
On the contrary, your inside knowledge of the guests was of great help to my investigation. But there are many more questions that require answers.
His position? You mean about him living here?
Oui, even in a house this size, you must see a lot of each other.
I enjoyed having him here. When I was away with Gideon, it was comforting to know Maman was not alone. Although his work with Mr. Da Silva has kept him away from the house of late.
What can you tell me about their relationship, working or otherwise?
There is not much to tell, only that there is no love lost between them. He was always quite private about his work. I know that he was helping Mr. Da Silva with some safety matters.
I found a check addressed to the Major from Monsieur Da Silva. It noted security consulting.
Ah, that's right, security. With his military training, he helped Mr. Da Silva prepare for any trouble with the strikes. A development? Oh, Detective, I knew I could count on you.
It may not be the news you had wished for, though. Another letter has been found.
Addressed to me? I don't know how much more I can take of this.
Pardonnez-moi, mademoiselle. Although it has been written in the same manner, using similar phraseology, It was not sent for your eyes, rather the Major's. Or at least that is how it seems.
I'm sorry, Detective, I don't understand. It is addressed to him or not?
I found it in the Major's study yesterday while conducting my preliminary search. Whether he is the author of the letter or the recipient, I am still yet to discover.
Heavens no, he could not do that.
You did not hesitate for a moment.
Why would he do such a thing? And then to send a letter to himself. It just doesn't make sense.
Merci for your time, mademoiselle. You are to a detective what an umbrella is to a traveler on a wet day.
Useful?
Exactement. Bonjour, Monsieur Demire.
Detective Poirot, how are you?
The truth, monsieur. With each step towards uncovering the blackmailer, I am thrown 2 steps back as to the identity of the Major's killer.
Is there something I can help you with? Archibald came to me and asked for my help in the matter. My brother and I dealt with it.
Merci for your help. It is a job that only the professionals should have to undertake.
It's a job that had to be done, although it may have affected my brother more than I.
How so?
At the sight of the body, the color drained from his face. Once we had reached the cellar, Zacharia took himself straight off to bed, without even a good night. Felix and Madame Vandenbosch are the only ones with keys, as far as I'm aware. Oh, and Archibald. I'm sure I heard Felix asking him to return something to it once. I have not seen him since last night. I'm sure he will have been fine after a good night's sleep. He does not need his younger brother checking in on him.
Perhaps that is exactly what he requires.
I'm not sure what he told you yesterday, Detective, but he's a big boy. He can look after himself.
I worry that may not be the case, monsieur. His time in the war came up in conversation more than once during our conversation.
He's still talking about it? I thought talking to the doctor would have stopped all of that.
Merci, monsieur. Comtesse, I wonder if I could ask you some questions.
That is it, detective? No small talk? No inflating of one's ego?
I am afraid not, Comtesse. With the murderer still loose in the house, my mind is rather preoccupied.
Well then, detective, perhaps I can be of some assistance.
Comment, madame?
I thought you might like to know what I found on the Major's body. That certainly piqued your interest.
A man has been murdered, and you find it acceptable to fool around and joke.
Oh, please, detective. Do you really think so little of me? Archibald asked for my assistance. He knows of my medical training from my days as a nurse, and I thought I would be able to help. Even if it has been some years.
It was not his place to grant you access to the body.
I shall remember to keep my assistance to myself next time. A single stab wound, which you no doubt already knew. The knife was held in their right hand. I would say their predominant hand. Judging by the depth of the wound, I would say there was no great force put into the strike. More a sign of defense than attack. If I had to say what weapon was used, a small sharp knife or dagger.
I understand it may be difficult for one to keep such information to yourself, but I ask you to try. Your involvement has already tainted my investigation.
You are welcome, detective.
S'il vous plaît, Comtesse. Keep this information to... Another success. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius.
If it will help you find the Major's killer, of course. When he returned from the war, he was a different man. Everything became about what he had seen.
I cannot speak from experience, but I can only imagine the horrors he must have witnessed.
The first weeks he would wake in the night, screaming. I found him one night, cowering behind the desk in the study. When I tried to help him out from beneath it, well, it was the first time I had ever feared for my life.
That is not why you two are no longer close?
And not at all, Detective. We were always very different in nature. While I had always wanted to follow an academic path, Zacharia was more of a free spirit. Or at least as free as our father and the laws would allow.
And yet he ended up in the military. Quite the contrast.
Our father demanded that he at least try to do something with his life. And when some of his friends joined the army, he signed up with them. It wasn't long before he moved out from the family home after his return from the army. I always assumed that he had put the war and everything that came with it behind him and was moving on. But now I see that is far from the truth.
Oh. Ah. Oh. Huh. Huh. Aha. Ah. Ah. Bonjour, madame. May I offer my condolences for your loss?
Thank you, Detective, but they are not necessary. What can I do for you?
I was hoping you would be prepared to answer some questions.
If I must. I'm sure you're aware he was not the easiest man to get along with. His hot temper made him a number of foes.
A hot temper is reason enough to kill a man.
His mouth often acted before his brain. Perhaps someone had grown tired of dealing with it. Seeing as I heard Mr. Becker's in what I would describe as an unnecessarily loud exchange of words yesterday, he would be my first suspect.
You heard them yourself.
How could I not? The volume they were shouting at, I could hear them from the study in my room.
You did not think it fitting to tell me this yesterday?
I didn't think Felix was going to wind up dead and a murderer loose in my house. My apologies, Detective. I assume you are talking about the supposed blackmail letter.
Oui, madame. You know of it?
It arrived shortly after the first. Rather coincidental, if you ask me.
I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say, madame.
He no doubt had secrets hidden away. But do you honestly think Felix had anything of value to his name worth threatening him for?
Perhaps you should enlighten me.
Well, he was here, living in my house, eating my food, prepared by my staff. Does that answer your question, Detective? I wouldn't put it past him to have written it himself, in the hopes of getting some sympathy from me.
And the other letters?
He probably wrote those too. If Angeline paid the first, that would have given him the money to pay the second letter. He is the White Knight, saves the day, and expects to live here happily ever after. What is it you wish to know?
You two have been friends for some time now, and while I do not mean to pry, has...
If you are trying to insinuate that Mr. De Silva and I are running around like schoolchildren, you could not be further from the truth. He was friends with my husband, for goodness sake.
Oui, I understand they worked together. Investments, if I am correct.
Mr. De Silva was the voice of reason that my husband should have listened to more often, instead of throwing our money at businesses that were already on the verge of bankruptcy.
Merci, madame. I shall not bother you any further. Ah. Bonjour, madame. You must be the wonderful cook.
Wonderful and modest, sir. I am.
My taste buds thank you for the ravishing meal last night. It has been some time since I ate so well.
Glad to hear it, sir.
S'il te plaît, madame. A detective is fine.
In that case, mademoiselle is fine for me, and I will ignore your presumption of marriage.
Très bon, mademoiselle.
That's right. I've seen staff come and go, but a house always needs a trustworthy cook.
I agree. But if I was to eat what you prepare every day, I fear I may be the size of La Maison.
Not a bad thing, detective. You could do with some meat on your bones.
Well, with the snow still not clearing, we may be stuck here for the weekend. Perhaps I should look to adjust my pantalon buttons.
I did. Monsieur Archie told me what had happened. Bruises can swell fast, so I took him some ice to bring it down.
How was the Major when you saw him?
Grumpy, as always.
I suppose one would not take kindly to being punched as he was.
Punched or not, he was as ungrateful as ever.
I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together.
Is there something I can help you with, detective? You have got the wrong end of the stick, detective. Maman has snapped at him recently, but it was nothing more than that. It was something to do with the letter. I heard them in the library before Maman shouted and he stormed out of the room past me.
Could it have been the blackmail letter that instigated their argument?
Why would Maman be upset with him over the letter?
Madame is of a very different opinion from yourself regarding his connection with the letters. She believes him to be the author.
That is what she told you? She has always been one to make a quick, if not rash decision, but she cannot truly believe that. I don't recall telling him directly. I did not want Maman to find out it had been paid. If he knew, surely she would.
Madame believes he may have been behind all the letters, and taking your payment of the first, then used it to pay the second and be the hero in you and your mother's eyes.
I never knew Maman had such an imagination. Where would she get a story like that from?
That is a question I was hoping you may be able to answer.
You have met him. Do you really think he's capable of such a devious plan?
It is a plan only the most crooked and underhanded could create. Is that the Major? I am not so sure. I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle. Things are beginning to become clearer.
Is there something I can help you with, Detective? I'm afraid it had been that way for some time. Maman is not forthcoming with her emotions, as I'm sure you are aware, but I could tell she had not been happy with their arrangement for the last few months.
What gave you that impression?
There was not one particular thing that she expressed, it was just the way she spoke to him and of him when he wasn't present.
I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle.
Whatever you need. Certainly, Detective.
Huh. Oh. Oh. Aha. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. What a revelation! Another success. I never doubted myself.
Detective Poirot, I have been asked to inform you that Lady Vandenbosch has returned to her room, and she wishes not to be disturbed.
Merci. Madame certainly has mastered the art of subtlety.
They may not be the exact words she used, but I'm sure you can imagine. Excuse me, I have some further duties to attend to in the pantry.
Aha. Mm-hmm. Huh. Ah. Oh. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. Ah. Huh. Hmm.
Detective Poirot, what do you think you are doing in here?
I have something I wish to discuss with you.
Well, I hope it is important enough to justify barging into one's bedroom.
I assure you.
Good, because this has gone on far too long. We are snowed in this house while a murderer runs amok.
I can understand your frustrations, but it is not as simple as.
You were once an incompetent officer, and now it seems you are just as incompetent as a detective.
If I was not being lied to and misled at every turn, perhaps the murderer would already be in custody.
I hope you are not suggesting I had something to do with Felix's murder.
I am suggesting that if I had the support that everyone claims they are offering, we would be in a very different situation.
If you have something you want to ask, I suggest you ask me now. We met before Angeline was born, so he was often at the house when she was growing up.
And where was it you two met?
I was attending an event. Felix was also in attendance as a serving officer. A conversation was struck.
So it was not through the Viscount that you two met?
I did not require my husband to start conversations on my behalf.
It was you that instigated it then?
My, detective. That active imagination of yours has taken you on quite some journey. Edwin spent much of his time away on business before Angeline was born. Felix was a welcome distraction from the loneliness of the house.
You were alone?
The staff continued their duties, of course, but trying to get any sort of sophisticated or cultured conversation from them was like drawing blood from a stone.
And when Angeline was born?
Edwin remained at home. It was his duty as a father.
And the Major?
He had his own business and life to tend to, but we remained in touch via letter. Around the time of Edwin's passing, Felix had relocated to the area. I'm sure he has hundreds of letters in there. Most of them could and should have been thrown away a long time ago. You are going to have to be more specific.
I refer to the letter addressed to you, the one of a romantic nature.
Romantic nature? Oh, please, detective. Felix did not have a romantic bone in his body.
He made his intentions quite clear in the letter. I must admit I myself was surprised.
You really do have quite the active imagination, detective. If that is how you wish to interpret it, so be it. But I can assure you, the Major did not think of me that way, and certainly did not include it in a letter.
I think that is all for now. Merci, madame. Huh. Oh. Huh. The pieces of the puzzle are fine. Things are beginning to become clearer.
Detective Poirot, are you any closer to uncovering the truth of Felix's involvement with the letters?
I am, mademoiselle. I can confirm that he was not the author of the blackmail letters.
So the author is still out there?
Oui, but it will not be long before they are apprehended, and the only letters they shall be penning will be from behind iron bars.
Your confidence is rather assuring. Thank you, Detective. I'm sorry, Detective. I did not intend to leave your mind so full of thoughts.
No apology is required. It actually made me question my whole chain of thinking. What if there had been a collusion between them, and the Major's murder was planned, organized, and orchestrated to make the investigation seem almost impossible?
Oh my, Detective, that is quite a theory.
Every guest has a motive. You confirmed that with the mention of Mademoiselle Conrad and the Major's fight. Supplying one another with a rock-solid alibi would surely throw off any detective.
But not you.
Correct, mademoiselle. It would take much more to stamp Detective Poirot.
I haven't seen that book in so long. Yes, it was a gift for my 10th birthday. I have read it from cover to cover countless times. He left such a lovely inscription too.
It sounds as though there is a side to the Major I did not get to see. Was it common for him to bring you gifts?
Not common, but if he had been away for some time, he would bring me a small memento from his travels. He hasn't done that in some time, though. There were. I'm afraid they may have gathered some dust being in the storage room for so long. I kept them in hope of giving them to my child when the time comes.
It sounds as though he had always cared about you.
His presence at the house was comforting for us both after Father died, even if sometimes he was a little too overprotective. That's right, ever since I can remember, Felix has been around.
It seems as though she has a number of support networks. The Major, her friendship with the Countess, not forgetting Monsieur da Silva.
Maman has many friends. I know how she may seem to most, but once you break the hard shell...
There is a further shell waiting to be broken?
Oh, very good, Detective.
Forgive me, mademoiselle. I only jest.
It's quite all right. You are not the only one that feels a razor tongue. She's grateful you are here, especially now, whether she shows it or not. They have often come to blows when it concerns Maman. They are both trying to protect her, but they themselves cannot seem to get along.
She spoke of his desire to join the, how do you describe it? Social elite.
This isn't the first time she has vocalized that concern. She thinks the Major was just using our family name to make his way to the top.
And you do not agree?
I will not deny he has shown interest in Maman's social circles, but they have been friends since even before I was born. Surely all those years of friendship was not just to raise his social standing. How do you mean, detective?
I imagine a house of this size is rather costly, keeping it in the immaculate condition it is in.
Maman looks after the financial side of the house, but I think she has had to ask him more than once for a contribution of sorts. It is not for me to get involved.
I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius.
Is this really necessary? He may have stayed in my home, but Felix was a grown man, detective. What he kept, hidden or otherwise, has nothing to do with me.
But it does not surprise you that he had such a photograph?
We have been friends, and he has been there for Angeline for many years, but you find it strange that he keeps a reminder of us? Perhaps that says more about you, detective.
What I do find strange is that if he did hold a flame for you, why he would never express it.
If he did, it was not reciprocated. I have not even considered another since my husband's passing. Not that it is any of your business.
I think that is all for now. Merci, madame. Magnifique.
Is this really necessary? Who I allow in my house is none of your business. I do not have to explain anything to you.
I did not think you were one for charity.
I would not expect you to think much of anything. There is no need to talk on it any further, but I'm sure you will remember that, financially speaking, we have had our issues. He was a man that required no protection, detective, especially from me.
That is the impression I had of him, which is why your defensive stance warrants questioning.
Your insistent questioning on such trivial matters are getting on my last nerve. There is a murderer and a blackmailer to be found. That is your job here. How many times do I have to tell you? There was no romantic feelings between us. I have grown weary of this conversation, Poirot. There is nothing more to say.
Madame, you continue to withhold the truth.
And you continue to get on my last nerve. I am not obliged to tell you every detail of my private life.
But when it impedes my investigation...
If only you were this focused on finding the blackmailer and...
Madame.
Very well. I did not lie about how we met. I was attending an event, raising money for... Oh, I cannot recall now. It had been some time since I had returned home, and was rather missing English soil. I was aware of Felix's invitation, or at least that there was to be several British officers attending the party, and that is where our friendship began. He was a warm reminder of home, and I enjoyed conversing with him. We shared walks in the park and read together. As I said, he was a welcome distraction from the days spent alone. I shall go no further with the details, but I will say, I had no intention on being unfaithful to my husband. It was never our plan to go that far. Once I found out I was pregnant, I knew it had to stop.
The Viscount never questioned Mademoiselle's birth?
In his mind, he had no reason to, and he shouldn't have had to. It was my mistake to bear. If he knew the truth, our lives would have been ruined. I told Felix that he was to stay away, but he had no intention to. He became an uncle figure to Angeline, and they grew closer after Edwin's death. I could not tell her the truth. Too much time had passed. The secret remained only between him and I.
And what were the Major's thoughts on revealing the truth?
He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted her to know exactly who he was. But I told him no. It would not have been the poignant reconciliation that he expected. She would not understand. I tried to retrieve them from the safe after everyone had retired last night. But when I opened the safe, they were nowhere to be found. I assumed he must have hidden them somewhere else.
When I entered the study this morning, they were as visible as a red notice on a police station wall.
I would appreciate if you did not compare them to the face of a wanted felon.
Pardon, madame.
But that does mean someone else in the house has seen them. I don't understand. Why would they return them?
A mystery that is still yet to be solved.
It must be. But I have told no one.
And the Major?
Felix promised me he wouldn't tell a soul, and I believed him. What, even if he wanted to?
You did not think anyone knew, and that is why you disregarded the letter.
If you bow to these criminals, they will only try to claw more from you.
I think that is all for now. Merci.
Detective Poirot, how is your investigation coming?
Monsieur Starling, I must admit, I have learned much more than I was expecting to.
You'll be wrapping the case up soon, then?
One has never finished learning, monsieur, and in this case, I shall need to continue if I am to find the Major's killer.
It might help to vocalize your thinking. I'm all ears.
Monsieur, would you gather the guests and staff in the salon?
Right away, Detective. Can I ask for what reason?
I shall reveal all once everyone is together.
Detective, what is the meaning of all this?
Madame, I ask that you all lend me your ears for only a few moments. What I have to say is of great significance to everyone. You are all invited here to celebrate the engagement of Mademoiselle Angeline van den Bosch and Monsieur Gédéon Demire, the coming together of two prevalent families. But the celebrations were short-lived, as Major Felix Hagen was found dead in his study by a young servant of the house. It then became my responsibility and obligation as a detective to uncover the truth behind his demise. My initial examination of his study exposed a number of things I did not expect to find. Things I have no desire to divulge at this time, but what I can say is this. It was no simple murder. A letter demanding ransom for a continued silence confirmed this. I am sure some, if not all of you, have heard whispers of a series of blackmails that have plagued the social elite in recent weeks. After hearing of the letters in the Major's study, you may ask if it was him behind the letters. You may further ask if he was preparing his next threat to another unsuspecting victim. It is a question that crossed even my mind. That was until I sought the truth. That in fact it was the Major that had fallen victim to our blackmailer Mystérieux. Last night I spoke with you all, confirmed your whereabouts in the house over the course of the evening, and while I would have expected such questioning to reveal a potential suspect, what I learned was that it could not have been one of you.
What do you mean, not one of us? The man was stabbed. He hardly did that to himself. There is still a killer in the house.
Pardon, monsieur, if you would allow me to finish. It could not have been only one of you. Rather a partnership, in cahoots, if you will. Conversations today have revealed facts that I was not expecting to discover. And although they may have muddied and complicated my investigation, what I must do to bring the guilty parties to justice has become clearer. Those of you that spun stories in an attempt to confuse and derail my investigation have made a grave mistake in underestimating my intelligence. Other detectives may fall for such deception, but I can assure you, Detective Poirot is no such fool. My investigation is far from over, and swift justice shall be dealt to those that have committed such appalling acts and have continued to mislead and lie to protect themselves. Now, I must continue mon enquête, and I shall leave you to consider that you may be beside a cold-hearted killer. Bonsoir. Monsieur Sterling, un moment.
Quite the speech, Detective.
Merci, but it was not made to entertain, more to warn the guilty parties that I am hot on their heels, no matter how clever they believe themselves to be.
Well, if there is anything I can do. Is that really necessary?
The murderer remains at large, and there is still no sign of the weapon. I would say that makes them essential.
Of course. I still just cannot imagine any of them being guilty of his murder.
It may be hard to imagine, but it is the truth.
Nothing. But I was so preoccupied with the Major. Sorry, Detective. Should I have?
Perhaps it was just my mind playing games again.
Maybe one of the guests got lost and wandered in. Master Hagen had a key, obviously, and Lady Vandenbosch. When requested, aye. If something is required from there when Master Hagen is not around.
Forgive me. If he is not around, how is it you access the safe?
It's not what you think, Detective.
What I think is that you have been trusted with a copy of the key, and you have lied to me about it.
I only lied because of the trouble I can get into with Lady Vandenbosch.
At this moment, monsieur, you should be more worried about the trouble you shall find yourself in with the law.
I know how it will sound, but I lost my key. I must have set it down somewhere, and it has been tidied away. Master Hagen asked so rarely for me to go in the safe, I didn't think it would be missed. I should have said this morning. I'm sorry.
Monsieur, I am not quite sure you understand the severity of what has happened.
I am well aware, Detective. I just thought she would be able to help.
Would you allow a man with a smoking gun to remove his bullet from a victim's chest?
I suppose not.
I would like to begin my searches now. Since it is closest, I will start with the west wing.
I may not be back when you return. Here is the key to the other rooms. Please return it when you're done.
Merci. I shall guard it with my life.
Entrez. Detective, what a pleasure. I did not expect to see you in my chambers.
In a purely professional capacity, I can assure you.
There is no need to act so stiff, Detective.
Madame, after the revelation of your actions last night, I'm afraid my sense of humor is all but gone.
I will not apologize again for merely trying to help. Shall we get straight to it then? Let us not waste your time any further, Detective. That would be Inga. She has been one of the most promising young women that has come from the shelter.
Madame Vandenbosch took in a young lady from your shelter.
There is no need to sound so surprised, Detective. She does have a heart.
I did not mean to sound so cruel. I just did not expect Madame to hire someone of that background after the incident with her previous maid, Florette.
People change, Detective. You should not judge someone on their past actions.
Believe me, Countess, I know that only too well.
Be careful, Detective. That almost sounded like a compliment.
It is your actions in this house that have been questionable, Madame. Your work outside is something that many more could take note of.
We do what we can. We wouldn't be doing a very good job if I could only help one girl. I in fact found work for one of them as a maid in Monsieur da Silva's house recently.
She has fitted into Monsieur's home well.
What is better, Detective? That she remained in an abusive house, or she is able to rebuild her life with an honest wage in a prosperous house?
When put like that, Is she happy in her position?
The happiest she has been in years. I check in with them all as often as possible. And if there was a problem, I would know.
Merci, madame. Oh. Oh. Mm-hmm. Ah. Ah. Aha.
Go ahead, detective. A compliment and now an apology. Well, detective, you certainly have changed your tune.
There was something I was still unsure of. You mentioned that your training was some years ago.
From my days as a nurse, oui.
If that is so, why would you have brought several pieces of equipment usually found in a physician's bag?
One must always be prepared, detective.
Prepared? At an engagement celebration?
If I had not brought them, I would not have been able to assist you last night. Perhaps you should be thankful for my precaution and not so suspicious.
Merci, madame.
Detective, what can I do for you?
Mademoiselle, I am sure you understand my reasoning for such intrusion.
If it's going to clear my name, be my guest.
If you wouldn't mind answering some questions, it can hopefully be cleared faster.
Like I said, he's not the man he wants everyone to think he is.
Oui, but how is it you came to that conclusion?
You don't really want me to recount every conversation I've had with him, do you?
There is one particular I had in mind.
An argument would imply it was a two-way conversation.
And that is not how it was?
Here it is. I've been helping Angeline get exposure, her marriage to Gideon is big news, and his work is really paving the way for others. I saw the chance to get their names out there, and he didn't like it.
What was there not to like?
Your guess is as good as mine, detective. But if I had to, I'd say he was jealous it wasn't his name at the top of the article.
And his reason to storm off?
Oh, you know about that. Let's just say I didn't accept his pathetic attempt to get me to stop the story. If you're gonna try and pay someone off, at least make it worth their while. You've really got a fascination with that guy, huh?
I would not say fascination. An interest, perhaps.
Well, I'll save you the bother of trying to find out more about him. He's not that interesting. In fact, he's a bit of a wimp if you ask me.
That is not the impression I got of him.
That's because you've only seen the side of him he wants you to. He knows what to say in front of the right people. But behind closed doors, he's clueless. Let me guess. The first thing he told you was that he was a union leader.
No, the voice of the people.
A man that is proud of his work is not something to be sneered at.
Don't get me wrong, he has a way with words, and he can certainly rally a crowd. But that's about it. At the end of the day, he's a representative and nothing more. He's got to play the part, not just learn the lines.
Merci, mademoiselle.
Sure thing, Detective. And if you change your mind on that exclusive about that shooting...
If I do change it, you shall be the first to know. Huh. Aha. Huh. Huh.
Go right ahead, Detective. All Felix cared about was money and filling his pockets with it. That's why he got into bed with De Silva.
The Major was not in need of money, though.
Need and want are two very different things. Did he need to move here and leech off the Madame? No, but he wanted to. As far as I know, De Silva hired him to work security. He was worried what could happen to his precious factories if things got ugly.
And your reporters were there to cover the story when it did turn that way.
My reporters go where there is news to be told.
And you predicted the violence that occurred?
Anyone could see that was gonna happen. If you ask me, Hugo should have acted sooner.
Merci, mademoiselle. I shall leave you to relax. Ah. Aha. Oh. Huh. Mademoiselle, we meet again.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poirot. Pardon, Détective Poirot.
Just a detective is quite all right.
Bon, can I help you with something? I was taking him a plate of food, but he didn't answer to my knocking.
You then entered the study.
I did. He was not moving. He just lay there.
I did not mean to upset you again. Seeing him there would be troubling for anyone, and I'm sure it is not a memory you wish to relive.
I suppose we're like a family. We argue, but most of the time we get along.
You must all be quite close, then.
Some more than others.
You refer to whom, mademoiselle?
Well, Maman Rihanna, she's been here the longest, and she's very close with Lizzie on account of Luke. Maman is Luke's sister. You didn't know that? I thought she would have said. She talks about him all the time. It must have been awful, losing him in those riots. Apparently, he was right at the front when they were charged. They didn't stand a chance. If I had been the one responsible for his death, I wouldn't want Maman looking for me.
Mademoiselle Rihanna, Maman Ray, she has expressed her desire for revenge.
Every time she talks about what happened. I guess you wouldn't know anything about life on the streets.
It is not an experience I have had to face personally, but I understand that many are forced into it, and the lifestyle that comes with it.
The lifestyle of a thief, you mean?
Put rather bluntly, oui.
You are the first officer that has not taken one look at me and pulled out their handcuffs.
Mademoiselle, I can see you have turned your life around, and I commend you on your efforts.
Without the Countess, I would probably be rotting in a cell somewhere.
Merci, mademoiselle. Monsieur Demir, I hope you are feeling better today.
Nothing a good night's sleep couldn't fix.
Très bien. I wonder if you would be up to discussing certain matters with me.
Whatever you need. I lost my taste for death a long time ago, but it had to be done. I'm certainly in no rush to be carrying a dead body again, though.
Most understandable. I shall extend the same gratitude to you as I did to your brother.
You've spoken to him already. How is he?
Perhaps that should be a question you ask him yourself.
Yeah, maybe. I bet he had a lot to say. He always did have an opinion on the war.
When I say your past, I refer to your past as brothers.
Okay, well, what did he say?
It seems you both had the same sentiment for this party. Perhaps the bridges that you thought were once burnt are in fact primed to be reconstructed.
We'll see how probable that reconstruction is going to be. Until he sees my point of view, I don't know how we can move forward.
What is there for him to understand before the bond can be repaired?
He lost his friends in the war, the same as everyone. But somehow he has forgiven. I'm sorry, Detective, I can't. And Gideon just doesn't understand that. Those two, close.
They must share something in common to be able to hold the conversation for the time they did.
If there is one thing I know about my brother, it's that he will not. No. He can...
Was it not your brother that punched Monsieur Hagen?
Ah, that's different. He was asking for it. If you put my brother in a room with 5 socialites like her, he would work his way around every single one of them, offering his full attention and finest manners.
Merci for your assistance, monsieur. Aha. Oh. Oh. Aha.
Always got time for my favorite detective. The dagger. I wondered how long it would take for that to become an issue.
I shall give you the opportunity to explain the reason for it being here before I jump to any conclusions.
It was going to be a wedding gift for Gideon. I've maybe not been the best brother in recent years. I thought this could make up for some of it. After what happened to the Major, I thought it was a bit tasteless.
You did not see it fitting to tell me you were harboring a rather sizable knife in your room?
I wouldn't say harboring. And I wasn't expecting to be a suspect in a murder.
Merci for your assistance, monsieur. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together. Ah. Huh. Oh. What a revelation! Another success. Monsieur da Silva, I am sure you understand the necessity for this type of search.
Not really, Detective. Your speech was rather spirited. But it did not give me much faith in your investigation.
I have not had my abilities questioned to my face by one of those I suspect of a crime before.
Well, if you wish to prove me wrong, you should hurry up and find Felix's killer.
And I hope, with your help, monsieur, I shall.
Yes, I helped him invest some money. Unfortunately, he was not the businessman he thought he was.
Madame Vandenbosch had a very similar view. At least he could have taken solace that you were both in the same position.
I think you're confused, Detective. It was Edwin that lost his fortune, not I.
Forgive my naivete. If you were helping him make viable investments, would you not have seen the same opportunity for yourself?
I told him about the opportunities. I did not tell him to put his whole family's wealth into it. The prospect of doing good meant more to him than his profit margins. He was bound to fail.
The business declared bankruptcy.
It did, until it was purchased for a fraction of its worth and made the new owner a small fortune. Everything that I want to say on that matter has already been said.
I understand, monsieur. But what I would like to know is, was the late Viscount aware of your feelings towards his wife?
Excuse me, Detective, but you have crossed the line.
Crossed the line like an attempt to bankrupt a business partner and friend so that you be able to swoop in and impress a certain target of your affections.
You make such ridiculous accusations without a shred of proof.
Your reaction at the mere suggestion is proof enough, monsieur. While I cannot arrest you for betrayal of a friend, I can hope your conscience does not forget, and that will be punishment enough.
He didn't have much to speak of. I was always surprised at the life he lived.
Surprised in what way?
Well, considering it wasn't that long ago he came to me asking about work,
You offered him a position.
Nothing that he was willing to lower himself to. That's when he began talking about what else he could do for me. If you can call what him and his team did security. For the money I paid, I did not expect them to be so reckless.
It was a considerable amount you paid him?
There's no need to divulge amounts, but it was certainly more than was expected. He said they were all professionals, but I saw nothing of the sort. He said he had worked with them all in the army as their superior officer. They were men that could be trusted.
But that was not the case?
I had not even met them before they arrived on site. They brought their own equipment. They looked like they knew what they were doing.
And this equipment, it included the weapons that injured and killed the workers?
It was not much of a choice, Detective. I said they didn't need them, but Felix said it was essential. He said he knew better.
That is all. Ah. Ah. Oh. Aha. Huh.
What is it now, Detective? Excuse me? Detective, I think you are beginning to lose your mind.
I do not think it is unreasonable to question why you would feel the need to bring a letter opener with...
Really, Detective? If I had stabbed a man with it, do you really think I would have left it lying out in my room? Yes, and no one asked him to.
But surely it is beneficial to both parties. Your profits must have been affected.
There are barely any profits to speak of.
Why have those talks not taken place and a deal arranged?
Monsieur Beckers has made no attempt to speak with me and offered no counter-offer. The ball is in his court, Detective.
I have spoken of a potential blackmail ring, and yet you still kept your letter to yourself.
It is none of your business, and it is nothing more than a cheap trick to have me admit something that is not true.
If that were the case, it would be strange for you to have kept the letter and brought it with you, would it not?
Your persistence is a trait I do not enjoy. No reason, Detective. Merely saving you from wasting your time.
I will be the judge of that. I would like to know about any and all evidence that may help my investigation. I trust there is nothing else you deem a waste of my time.
Of course not, officer. It's not as though you think I'm harboring some illicit secret. The letter was a pathetic attempt to intimidate me. Nothing more. I have never heard so much rubbish in all my life. I value those that work hard and deserve it.
That suggests there are some that you do not respect.
Yes, well, why should I praise someone for doing a poor job? You make me sound like some monster.
Monsieur, the letter does not only discuss your questionable business dealings, but also cases of abuse against your staff. Both accusations that must be taken very seriously.
Detective, there is a difference between telling a member of my staff what to do and abuse.
And it is you that decides where that line is drawn?
In my house? Yes, it is. Please stop calling it that. I treat all my servants exactly how I always have, and no one has complained before.
That does not mean your behavior is appropriate.
They have one chance. If they are not doing the job they are hired to do, they are gone. You would be surprised how many staff expect an easy ride.
Is there a specific member of staff that may have expected such a ride?
There is one girl, a new maid. I didn't expect great things from her, but Comtesse de Vos promised me she could do what was required.
That is all for now. Things are beginning to become clearer. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction.
What is it now, detective? She approached me. I thought it was rather brash.
In what way?
Assuming that I would want to take on another servant, and one from such a troubled background. She is running the charity, not I. When he came to me, I told him that with the factories on strike and my profits pouring down the drain, I had nothing for him. But he said he could help me get them all back to work and the factories earning. His rates were steep, but he said he knew what needed to be done, and he was prepared to do it. A week passed and they were all still on strike. In fact, even more had joined them. He made excuse after excuse, demanding more and more money for the job to be done. But he never actually told me what he was going to do.
The riots.
I had no idea they were going to charge them like that. How was I meant to know?
And even following such a tragedy, he continued to demand money from you.
He said if he wanted my silence, it would cost. Do you have any idea what it could do to my livelihood, my name? If it got out that I had paid the so-called security that did that.
I have every idea, monsieur. You hired a militia to take action against your own workers. You deserve whatever name is chosen for being so morally bereft in your decision-making.
I didn't know that was what he was going to do. You must believe me.
I have to believe nothing but the truth. And the truth, monsieur, is that it is not only the Major that has the blood of those men on his hands. That is all for now. Magnifique.
Is there something you need, detective? She helped me at the shelter and with this job.
That I am already aware of. What I am not is what else she tasked you with.
Pardon, detective?
I know that your position as a servant in this house is not your only job. What did Countess de Vos ask you to do while in this house?
She said I had to do what she asked, or I would be back on the street. I didn't want to do it. If anyone found out, I would be the prime suspect.
Merci, mademoiselle. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius. Another success. I never doubted myself.
Is there something you need, detective? Nothing. She said I was to take nothing.
If it was not something she wished you to take, what was it?
She wanted me to find out information about the family and Monsieur Hagen.
Why did she request that?
At first I didn't know, but when I heard about Mademoiselle Angeline being blackmailed, and then the Major, I knew she had used what I found. I knew Monsieur Archie had a key, and it would be easy to get it from him.
You knew that the Major asked Monsieur Sterling to access the safe from time to time, and if anything was ever discovered missing, he would surely take the blame.
I never took anything. I only told the Countess what I had found.
And that was?
About Monsieur Hagen and the Madame's relationship, and Angeline.
I'm sure the Countess was pleased to hear such valuable information.
She said I had done a good job, but I needed proof. That's why I went back and got the letters last night. I fetched the letters again and took them to the Countess last night. But she shouted at me and said what a stupid girl I was.
You were only doing as she requested.
She said it was too dangerous for her to have them with you around. That's when I returned them to the study. I thought I heard someone on the stairs, so I just threw them back. It was dark, as I dared not turn the light on. Someone would have seen it.
Merci, mademoiselle. Magnifique. What a revelation!
Is there something you need, detective? That's all, I swear. I heard Monsieur Archie and Monsieur Felix talking about a storeroom, but I haven't found it.
Is the Countess aware of this room?
I told her it was somewhere in the house, but I didn't know where. She wasn't happy with me that I hadn't found it yet.
Merci, mademoiselle. Your honesty today has helped me greatly.
I suppose that I will lose my position at the house now.
That is not my decision to make. But when the whole truth is revealed, it will not be the pawns the law looks to convict. We shall be coming for the Queen. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. Mademoiselle, merci for coming.
Have you had a breakthrough, Detective?
I have. Finally, I have the news you have awaited.
Please, Detective, don't hold me in suspense. Oh my, I feel faint at the thought of knowing who could have done this to us.
It is said to keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. It is Countess de Vos that is behind the letters.
I don't believe it. What about the Major's letter?
Not only his, but a letter to Monsieur da Silva.
She was blackmailing him as well? Detective, I just don't know what to say.
Take a moment, mademoiselle. It is a lot of information to take in.
I just don't understand why she would do such a cruel thing. She has never been particularly forthcoming with it, only that she was homeless for some time and that she was at the women's shelter before here.
And it is there that the Countess abused her power and manipulated her to uncover secrets of the family.
All this time she has been working for Margot, doing her dirty work?
I am afraid so, mademoiselle.
Is Maman aware?
You are the first I have told, mademoiselle. Next will be the authorities.
I'm afraid that we'll have to wait. And we will. I want to see her punished to the fullest extent of the law. But we cannot telephone anyone, as the lines are still down.
Monsieur Archibald informed me earlier. I had hoped they would be working again. Last night's snow must have caused more damage than expected.
Last night? They have been done all weekend, Detective. Detective? Are you okay? Detective Poirot? Would you like me to fetch you a glass of water, Detective?
My apologies, mademoiselle. I was taken by surprise for a moment, but I have regained my composure. A glass of water is not required. Would you excuse me? Merci, mademoiselle.